How's it going?
It's going.
So I heard you wanted to talk about Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Or the idea of at least giving thanks, right?
Yeah. I don't like the idea of celebrating what the reality of Thanksgiving was, but I do like the idea of taking stock in your surroundings and your life and being thankful and grateful for those things.
Yeah. And like as kids, they kind of just like not really brainwashed, but it was like solidified over time, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
This ideal of natives sitting down with pilgrims and coming together, and here's a turkey. Like, it's just all kind of weird.
Yeah, it was really like edited for TV version of the reality, right? I don't like the word brainwashed either, because it implies that it was an intentful deception. But I think it's one of those things that has been handed down for so many generations, and people like tradition, right? Human beings like ceremony and tradition.
Yeah.
And
but
so I think
what are we celebrating? And I think we need to pivot, right? Now that we all know better, right?
Yeah.
We can't be held accountable for what we did really as kids, because we didn't know any better, right? But when I dressed up like a Native American girl when I was a kid, it's because I liked the Native American culture and I thought that was really cool, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know that was not for me to do. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think you and I are both from a generation where playing cowboys and Indians was like a thing, right?
Yeah, but
my junior high mascot was basically a direct ripoff of the Cleveland Indians mascot, right? But it never really sat right with me, because it seemed very close to those old stereotypical things that you see from, the Civil War times, where they were depicting Black people in a way that was really offensive, right? Mm-hmm. And that logo has always been, I feel, really kind of an offensive logo.
Yeah.
Just the whole idea of how we have treated Native peoples, indigenous peoples in this country is sickening. But I think you're right. I don't think that when you're a child and your parents have basically said, oh, here's a thing you do, right? Or the other kid you're hanging out with.
And teachers and just everyone around you is like, we make feather hats and we draw happy turkeys. And it's like all this, like, well, turkeys aren't happy during this time of year. They're being killed by the millions. Native people are not happy this time of year. They're not happy with white people dressing as them, and it's like as their ancestors. It's all terrible when you really, really think about it and break it all down. And I know it's like, come on, it's just a paper turkey, but it's not for me. For me, it represents terribleness.
Right. It's just very selfish, right? It's the kind of like self-centered, well, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not going to think about it type of attitude that I think a lot of white people are raised with. And maybe not intentionally. Like there are definitely like people who are raised with complete racist ideals, right? Mm-hmm.
But not all of us were.
No, but we still end up being racist to some degree because we weren't taught about the greater world and the realities of what happened. We were given this whitewashed education,
idealistic,
and this whitewashed upbringing. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, because I went to for all intents and purposes, a completely white school, right? Mm-hmm. We had some Hispanic kids and we had some, like a handful of Black kids at my school. But, I went to high school and elementary school and stuff in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
Which is the wine country. You couldn't get whiter, right? Yeah. And so I wonder, like, schools where the makeup is primarily Black students or primarily indigenous peoples, are they taught something different about Thanksgiving? Yeah. Are those children taught the truth, the realities of what happened, and how they were genocides and massacres?
Yeah. And like just the one generalistic topic of that the indigenous children were taken away from their parents and their families and everything they've ever known and put into white schools and made to cut their hair and made to wear different clothing just that one generalistic
right.
sentence freaks me out.
Yeah, indoctrination, right? Trying to make them Christian or white or whatever.
That makes me have like terrible feelings in my heart because why?
Well, I think,
why on earth? And we're still doing it today. We're still taking kids. I'm so sad about it.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. Why is that part of my history now? I just don't like it.
Well, I think that's, as a parent, it just is horrifying to even think that a child could be separated from their parent in a forceful way and that they would never be reunited. So like, the current topic of 2020 is kids in cages, right?
Oh,
that's disgusting, but it's no different
from
what our ancestors did.
Right.
When we first came to America and started doing that same exact behavior.
Yeah. It just makes me sad.
It's real colonist bullshit right there.
Yeah. So I feel like we don't have to give up the ceremonial giving thanks and gathering and being with your families. I mean, this year we probably should be a little less of that.
We should not be gathering with anybody who is outside of our own household.
Yeah.
It's inappropriate and irresponsible to do otherwise unless you want COVID to go on indefinitely.
Yeah.
And you want some of your family members to die from it.
I know that. And so, but there's nothing wrong with celebrating, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be together and sitting down at a table and having a meal and all gathering and being cool with each other.
I don't even really think of it as celebrating so much because what are we celebrating?
Right. I
think of it as like just being grateful.
Yeah, celebrating your family.
It shifted for you and I.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah. I think
it used to be very, everybody gets together and we have turkey in remembrance of what? Of horrific acts that our ancestors did?
It feels like no matter where I turn in this particular holiday, it just is, it's all bad.
It's all darkness, yeah.
So what I like doing is, yes, I make big meals all the time for our family. That's a nightly
big family,
dinner,
big meals, yeah.
Right? For us.
That's a TLC show. Big family, big meals.
But I still can't help my traditional way of growing up that the last Thursday of November is Thanksgiving and I make a list of all the foods I want to make but
it's really ingrained in American culture is the reason. And so you feel pressure from outside sources and society in general going, this is something we just celebrate, It's not, every job gives you that day off. Right. It's one of those keystone holidays like New Year's Day, Christmas,
4th of July,
right? You get them no matter where you work. And then there's other holidays where some jobs just don't even recognize that holiday is existing. Right. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's something that we should culturally be celebrating in the way that we do. I think that you can have that day, but you should also reflect on the sins of the past, right? And not to sound Christian because I'm far from that, but our ancestors have created an enormous amount of chaos in this world that to the day we're recording this still prevails.
Yeah. So what you're saying basically is at least acknowledging that you're aware that this has happened.
At the very least, yeah.
And that the people around you are at least aware of the existing of all of these terrible things that have happened in the world, the real story. Right? I'm sure there's even still things that I don't know about what has happened.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody will ever really know unless they were there and all of those people would be passed by now. Yeah.
And I've tried to really educate myself and about like what really happened because I felt closer to animals than most of the kids around me growing up. Right. I felt closer to Native Americans than most of the kids growing up around me. I felt closer to the underdog or the kicked around kid or, the outsider or the rebel. And so why can't I bring that into my adulthood? And I feel like I have to a certain degree, but I want to keep going. Yeah. I want to be woke or whatever it's called, but I want to know the real truth of it because it's only after we know the truth that we can make real changes and real acknowledgments. Right. I don't think I have to walk around with a sign on my head that says I'm sorry. I just need to go, I know what happened. And I'm not going to let me or my kids or anyone around me continue that or repeat that without some noise. Because, it's our problem to help fix this. It's our problem. They didn't do anything wrong but exist. So it's our thing that we need to fix and acknowledge and to not let repeat.
Yeah, it's absolutely 100% the responsibility of white people to make amends for the past.
Yeah.
It's not a Black person's job to educate me on why something I said is offhandedly racist. It's not an Indigenous person's job to educate me on why celebrating Thanksgiving is offensive.
Right.
Right.
And we just need to word it differently and approach it differently.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have to fix the problem so that it doesn't exist. We just have to acknowledge it and go, I'm not going to continue that.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm going to still have a big meal with my family. That's fine. But I'm also going to be safe during these COVID times. And I'm also going to word it differently. I'm not going to be celebrating my heritage or this day because this day is a lie. It's a lie. And that's really hard for even me to say because people weren't purposefully lying to us. But some people knew the truth. Teachers had to have known the truth of it.
Not necessarily if you think about how it's been handed down, right? Like if you're taught it, then you're going to teach it to the next person, right? Yeah. Like if I learn something and I learn it wrong, but no one ever corrects me, and then for the rest of time, that's how I do it, and it works. There's no problems with it technically.
Oh, I see.
And then why wouldn't I teach the next person?
Yeah.
Who's going to take that mantle? I'd say, here's how we do it.
Yeah.
Right? Not knowing, I'm just ignorant, right? I'm not being willfully malicious, right? And I think that's where we're at. We're so many generations removed from the actual event.
That it's so easy to say, it's not my fault.
Right.
I didn't do it.
And yeah, maybe there was a feast. Maybe there was some sort of thing that we're basing this off of. But the reality is it doesn't matter because the truth of the whole picture was that it was, we weren't being very kind to their people.
No, it's kind of frustrating because I don't know what to, and I think that's part of the whole learning, right? Is that we have to just sit with our frustration sometimes.
Right.
And we have to go, okay, well, what small thing can I do?
Yeah.
Well, how can I start to feel differently about this? Not with anger or, sadness, but like really, truly.
I think you have a good start, right? Like you are aware and you don't want to repeat those mistakes and you are doing your level best to make sure that you go out of your way to make sure that those people understand that you don't have ill intent for them and that you want to learn more and that you're doing your best to be a good person and a good partner in life to them. I would say ally, but sometimes people do like allyship is performative, right? It's like, but in reality, they're doing some other weird shit on the side, right?
Yeah, it's not about me.
Right.
It's not about me at all.
Yeah.
I just feel for others. I just feel for others sometimes. And I'm trying my hardest to like even teach our kids because I homeschool them. So it's on me about what they learn. And I don't want to hold anything back. Cameron right now is 13 and he's learning, terrible things.
Well, you've been teaching the children the truth of the past
since day
as much
one.
as possible because as much as you can get your hands on because it's very important,
Yeah.
And I've always been very impressed and proud of you for doing that because I didn't get that kind of education. I didn't learn about the Tulsa massacre until we watched The Watchmen. And that was last year.
Yeah,
it's like, what the fuck? Why didn't they teach us about this in school? That was devastating.
Exactly.
That event was horrific on the scale of a massacre, but it didn't just massacre a small group of people. It massacred the ability for that group of people to continue living a wealthy and rich life.
Yeah.
Right?
And then like other Black people in other cities were watching all of this happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's just very frustrating.
It's horrifying.
I don't know where all that
we generally didn't learn from our mistakes, right?
Exactly.
Because we're continuously doing.
Yeah. It's like every decade, not just every single day, but it's like every decade something big and huge happens where everyone looks at this and then, over time, everyone slowly looks away, and we can't have that.
I think that's the most important key thing, is that you never look away.
Yeah, because once you know the truth, you can never, ever, ever say again that you didn't know that was happening.
Right. It's like when we went vegan, I was the holdout for the long time because I just didn't get it. Like I was like, I'm being successful with this diet or whatever that I was on. And then I saw some videos about how animals are treated in the slaughterhouses.
Which is one, it's against the law to videotape what happens inside of slaughterhouses. So people have to be undercover about it because there's ag-gag laws where they can prosecute the person who shows what happens inside them. So the fact that those are leaked and showing people the truth is, ridiculous that it's against the law.
Yeah. But after I saw those, I was like, well, I can't do this. I can't participate in that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I went vegan with you guys. You guys had already been vegan for 3 months or something.
Mm.
I didn't join too soon.
We were
after.
vegetarian before that too.
Yeah. And I joined you, and I will never go back to eating mass-produced animal products because it's just horrifying. Yeah. I can't unsee it, right? I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with, growing up white and I would say sheltered from the realities of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or, just whitewash in general. Once you open your eyes and you see the truth of what actually happened, you can't go back.
Yeah.
Right? When the Black Lives Matter protests started, lots of people put Black Lives Matter in their Twitter profiles and on Facebook and stuff. Mm-hmm. And now we're in November and most of those people have stopped talking about it, right? But I've kept it there because how can I not? Nothing's changed yet.
Right.
Right? Like, how am I going to stop supporting that at this point? I can't. Right? So I leave it there because I think it's important.
It is important.
And I think people need to know about it. And I think that it doesn't do me any good to go back to my regular life as it was before because I can't, because now there's this thing that I know about, right? That I don't agree with and I think is a tragedy and I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
So how am I going to just go back and stop? You just be like, oh, okay, well, that was March.
Right.
Right. It's November now. What's the new thing?
Right.
Right. And so I think if you operate like that, whenever you learn the truth about something, you adopt that in.
It has to become a part of you now.
Yeah.
I truly do believe that everything that you hear, everything that you see, everything that you are around, it becomes part of you. It becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
And if you try to ignore that on purpose, that's a part of you.
It goes the other way too. I mean, that's why we end up with people who are now in their 20s in 2020 still being super racist.
Yeah.
Because they grew up around that and it became part of who they are. And it's,
instead of thinking for themselves.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even about thinking for yourself, right? It's not about being a free thinker, because you can be the smartest person in the world and a free thinker, but you can still be gullible. You can still be easily susceptible to suggestion, because we all are.
Yeah.
Right. And if every single person around you is espousing these views, even if you do a little research on your own, if you have no escape from that situation, you're going to be in that same situation, and you either reject it and be in a constant state of turmoil and conflict, or you adopt it. And then eventually it just becomes who you are. Right.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
We've been talking about this part a lot. That's why we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. But what do we do instead? Let's talk about that.
So we do a big meal, right?
What do we call it? What do we call that meal?
We call it Yam Sham. And it's a Buffy reference because there is an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where Buffy just really wants to have this big, huge Thanksgiving dinner. And Willow says, okay, this is a travesty and this is a lie and all this is, it's celebrating a genocide and all these things, all these truths. And
because Willow's the best.
And because Willow doesn't, celebrate those kind of things.
I have a signed photograph of Willow that you got me.
Yeah. And so Buffy goes, well, we can just have yams. It's a sham. It's a yam sham. And so that's what we call it. We call it yam sham. It's just like a fancier dinner that we normally have, but that, we pull out like the yams. That's all.
And we reflect on what we're grateful for.
We do a thanks.
Yeah.
We do what we're thankful for and that we've made it through the year. It's like an 11th month kind of celebration thing, but not as far as, what it's meant to, not what it's meant, but like what it's been portrayed as.
And I think that's important. I think it's okay to take something that's a traditional American staple holiday and transform it into something that works for your family so that you are participating, I guess, in the national day.
Right.
But you're doing it in a way that's more respectful to the memory of those lost.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Grateful for what you do have in current day, right? Because none of us alive had anything specifically to do with what happened, but we continue to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, some people are participating in certain things that are doing the whole movement and doing our country a disservice by not acknowledging and not like making.
Yeah, there are some people who are actively staying ignorant about things.
Right.
But I think with anything else, to get somebody to swap their worldview or even smaller, like just their current situation, they have to be accepting and receptive, and they have to be open.
Yeah.
And they also have to admit to themselves that it's an issue first, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, some of these people aren't even willing to be honest with themselves that it is an issue to begin with, right?
Yeah.
They dig their heels in and they're like, no, that's not what you're saying is a lie, right? I mean, that's why we're where we are with the election right now, is because so many people have convinced themselves and are not willing to be intellectually honest that there was some sort of grand scheme of robbery.
So it's so hard because on one hand, I understand it because it's very hard to pivot everything you've known, right? And to be open-minded and to start something that's not strict and not like, what it's always been.
Change is hard.
Change is very difficult.
For everyone.
So I understand that on one hand.
Yeah.
And I understand that there is ego involved.
Right.
And that, well, I can't possibly, change this because this is the way it's always been. And I hate that phrase. I hate it because
this is how we've always done it. I hate that one.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It hurts. Yeah. It hurts me because that's why we are the way we are.
Yeah.
And if we don't change, if we don't have open minds, if we don't teach our kids that it's okay to be sensitive, it's okay to be open-minded, it's okay to think whatever you want to think within reason, then we're always going to be having issue and being stuck and having as much sadness and turmoil that we've always had.
Yeah, we get stuck in a rut, we get stuck in a cycle, and we just continuously repeat the same problems.
And for me, that just makes me crazy.
Yeah, because you're, an intellectual. You want to move forward and you want to take in something that might make that progress more efficient.
Yeah.
Or easier.
I just hope that, especially this year and things happening around this year, more and more people will think like that and be open-minded.
You know that there are at least 73 million people in this country who are still stuck.
Yeah. And I don't know how to help that. I don't know how to fix that.
You can't. That's not your job to fix.
I know. But I know that people are going to continue to hurt then.
Even those people. The the saddest part about it is those 73 million people, the vast majority of them don't realize that they voted in their own worst interest.
Yeah.
Right? They don't realize that suffering, even if you're not directly affected by it in your day-to-day life, you will be affected by it at some point down the road.
Yeah.
I don't know there's a way to help those people because, like I said earlier, you have to be open. And those people aren't open because that man has showed us for the last 4 years who he was. And those people are blind to it.
Yeah.
Right? But it also 100% explains to me how Nazi Germany happened.
Yeah.
And how any of those other crazy concentration camps, like how do people go along with that stuff? I've always thought to myself, how does enough people go along with that to make it a possibility? There can't be that many evil people. But then I realized it's not about being evil. It's about being easily manipulated.
And putting blinders on and going, well, that's terrible for them.
I don't think people are even actively putting blinders on. That's saying that they know what's going on and they've decided to ignore it, which is the case for some people. But I think for most people, it's that they don't even realize that they're being tricked.
Yeah. And that goes along the lines with our foods and stuff too. And what people consider as food. Yeah. That you're not actively wanting animals to suffer and die, but the fact of the matter is that they are.
They absolutely are.
And it's covered up on purpose. It's covered up to make more money.
Absolutely. 100%. And I think that you're right. I think that if most people had to get their meat the old fashioned way, we'd have a lot less meat eaters in the world because it would be too difficult. And I don't know very many people in the world that could look into a cow's eyes, like a legit cow's eyes, and then slaughter that cow. I know that there are people who could do it because they're just cruel and heartless, but that's not the majority of people, right? The majority of people would be like, oh my God, it's a giant fucking puppy.
Exactly.
How could I kill this thing?
Exactly. And I don't know, I'm just feeling everything right now.
I know, you're really,
it's hard for me.
You're walking the tight wire of emotion today.
Yeah. It's just very hard for me because it's so easy to pivot. It's so easy to do so.
You're also very empathetic. You like to say you are empathetic towards animals, but I know you and you're empathetic towards all living beings. Even if you're really pessimistic towards humanity in general, you don't want to watch humans suffer either.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
And even it's hard because growing up, I was told over and over and over again, endlessly, that I'm too sensitive. You're just too sensitive. You're not seeing it right. You're just too sensitive. Yeah. You're oversensitive. And I started believing it. I thought, well, maybe I am. I should just buck up and shut up and just deal with it. So I did make turkey for Thanksgiving and I did, eat burgers and stuff. And I just was like, well, this is just, I can't feel this because I've been told that it's not right anyways.
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of autonomy as a child, right? Like you don't get to decide your own meals.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, even if you did know,
but
you still wouldn't have been able to decide.
No, right? It was eat this or go hungry, and many nights I did. Yeah. Many nights I just got up from the table and I went to bed hungry.
Right.
And
so what do we make? What do we make for our Yam Sham? Because I think it's a particularly delicious feast that we have. And I'm looking forward to it, even though I will be eating a lot less this year than I normally do.
The whole funny haha pointing fingers is tofu, but I don't like tofu.
I love tofu.
I
think that's why it was so easy for me to go vegan is because I really enjoy all of the vegan options.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do the tofu. So I have searched for the best sour cream and the best cream cheese and the best kind of roast and eggnog but that don't have any animal products in them.
Right,
I searched for the best of it because I have traditional tastes. I like, macaroni and cheese. I'm a weirdo, but I don't want anything to suffer because I have certain chemical tastes in my head that, I like what tastes good.
Well, but I think you could retrain those things, right?
Yes.
I think that those are just because
I'm a rebel all the way down.
Yeah. I think those are not things that you would naturally crave. I think that's just because growing up, those are things you were fed. And so you were like, oh, I really like these things.
Yeah.
Because I have the same things, right? Like that I think about, I think about chicken all the time. We ate a ton of chicken growing up because my mom loved chicken, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't want to eat chicken.
Right.
Right. I didn't even, if I'm being honest, when I was a kid,
I didn't put two and two together.
They'd give us like a chicken leg and I'd be like, there's veins in it. And I wouldn't eat if it had any semblance of the animal there. Cause I think subconsciously knew. Cause
you're a child and children don't. I saw this thing and he's a doctor and nutritionist. And he said, if you put a baby chick and an apple in a playpen with a baby, you would not see a baby chewing on a chick. Right. That would not happen. You'd see the baby playing with the chick and eating the apple every time because kids are just beautiful little innocent beings. They don't understand those things.
Well, they also don't understand where the chicken comes from.
Exactly. It's just a word.
An animal, yeah.
It's just a word until you love animals a lot and you go, wait a minute. They're calling this food chicken and that is a picture of a chicken. It's just... I don't like to be judgmental and I don't blame people because this is how it's always been.
Right.
But until you can be more aware and be more mindful of what's going on, then you can make little changes here and there.
Yeah.
And it is easy to do and it is not expensive unless you want it to be. And sometimes, Well,
I mean, expensive is relative, right?
Right. But I'm saying beans and rice, always vegan, always cheap.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't want to have beans and rice for every meal. That's understandable. You could probably, I bet. I'm
one of those people, just so everybody understands, I'm one of those people who can just eat the same thing every day for the rest of my life. It doesn't bother me. Like I understand that you need more variety in your meal, but like let's say
you don't have to though for nutritional purposes, you do not have to.
The oatmeal stuff that they have in the Matrix that has all the amino acids.
Yeah.
That I could eat that and I would eat it every day and I would be fine. Yeah. Like in that scene, I would have been like, no problem, guys. Cause I don't want to think about it really. Right. I don't want to think about it. So
for our meal, you got to start with the basics, right? So you got to find a plant-based butter, and they are just as tasty as the other ones.
Avocado butter is better than regular butter.
Yeah, there's an avocado butter. There's even Country Crock now has a plant-based butter.
Yeah. You can even use avocado itself as a butter.
You probably could. It would turn everything green, but yes, absolutely.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Then you got to have, so if you're going to do yams, right, you just cut up yams. You can skin them or not. Yep. And then you put them in a thing and you put plant-based butter on them.
Yep.
And you put brown sugar on them.
Yep.
And you put a little bit of veggie stock, not chicken stock, but they make vegetable stock that's vegan.
Right.
Kroger has expanded so much in the last 5 years that we've become strict vegans.
Yeah.
That they have plant-based just about anything you can find.
The only caveat to that, as I would say, is that I guess I would call them replacements. Some of the replacement stuff isn't ultra healthy for you, because it's still processed food.
Right.
But it is good, like when you want to have something, like if you want to have a hamburger and you're a vegan, well, you can do that now and it can be a delicious hamburger.
Yeah.
It's just going to be just as unhealthy as if you had a regular hamburger,
right?
Vegan, but nothing's suffering.
Right. Vegan or plant-based doesn't always mean healthy.
No, it doesn't.
Which is the same for other foods too. Like macaroni and cheese is macaroni and cheese.
You could say that for any diet too, right? Like paleo isn't inherently healthy because
not for every person.
You're allowed to have as much bacon as you want. Well, that's not super healthy.
Right.
Right.
So we do the yams, we do the stuffing, we do peas and corn, we do celery and cream cheese, but you could do that's really the best cream cheese I've ever found is tofutti cream cheese.
Right. It's made from tofu.
It's made from tofu, but you really cannot tell. No. And I've had all the other kinds of cream cheese, but that one's the best one.
Yeah.
And I've been able to find it at Whole Foods, but I think Publix has it. They
Publix
also have the tofutti sour cream, which is the closest one too. Made from tofu, but I promise I do not like tofu, and I like those ones.
They
those
actually taste like cream cheese and sour cream.
They do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tell the difference, and I like them a lot.
Right.
You know, the only thing that comes down to is the turkey. So you have to hunt for it, but lots of people are carrying it. And I can find it at Whole Foods, and Guardian is a really good replacement for all the meats that you want. So Guardian has burgers, they have nuggets, they have strips, they have ground up crumbles, and then they make a holiday roast. And that's what I make for our Thanksgiving, our Yam Sham, and for Christmas.
And the holiday roast
it's like a breaded goodness,
but it's similar to tofurkey, which is something people would probably understand what we're looking at here.
So it's got it's stuffing, and it's got like celery, and it's got like cranberry. It's very like mild in the flavor department, but it tastes like a chicken roast. It really does. It doesn't look anything like a chicken. No. But it's like it's kind of
I don't know if I'd want it to.
It's kind of like bread shaped, like a loaf of bread, but it's amazing and it's delicious, and it's the best one that I've found.
You get a little cranberry sauce, a little gravy, you're good.
Yeah. And it comes with 2 packs of gravy, which gravy is very easy to make vegan. Yep. If you start with vegetable stock and
they even make
some onion and flour, like gravy is just easy to do vegan.
Well, they even make some beef flavored vegan stock now too.
Oh yeah. And Just Egg now makes it's made of mung bean. You would never know the difference, but it scrambles like eggs. Yep. It's a great egg substitute
and it waffles.
Yeah, for making pancakes and waffles and all sorts of like baked stuff. Yeah. I make birthday cakes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, being vegan hasn't really, I don't find the only thing that I've ever had a craving for that we don't have a almost perfect replacement for is honey.
Yeah, because even bees are not treated very nicely.
Yeah.
They're inseminated with needles.
They're an animal, right? So you can't eat it anyways, but yeah.
So basically what I'm trying to say is that even though you can still, quote unquote, have a holiday dinner on the last Thursday of November, right, but you can do it in a more compassionate way for everything that this holiday represents. Yeah. Thank you. That's the word I wanted. Represents. And so you can be with your family or not. You can Zoom your family and your extended family. You can make delicious food without any animal products or cruelty or sadness. You can make it healthier for you and your loved ones. And you can be kinder and understand that Native people will mourn this day. Yeah. They just will. And they have the right to do so because their family was annihilated. Yeah. And their children were taken away. And we have to be empathetic to what that means to someone. Yeah. Just because it doesn't happen to us doesn't mean it's not happening or didn't happen. It's a terrible feeling to sit with, but I feel like we have to. Right. We cannot lie to ourselves and lie to our kids anymore. We cannot do it. This has to be a catalyst for greatness now. Right.
And I think that's where you start, right? I would like it if more people went vegan or partial vegan or even vegetarian, but that's a tough ask at first, right?
I know it's hard to do.
So my first request would be, if you're going to celebrate Thanksgiving this year, when you do so, sit and think a little bit about what the holiday actually represents. Yeah. What the truth behind the holiday is, and not just because we've handed it down for so many generations, right? Think about think about the people who are now relegated to extremely small parts of land that don't celebrate this holiday, and they don't think this is a good holiday, and they don't want to celebrate
They call it a day of mourning.
Yeah, they don't want to celebrate the demise of their ancestors, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to celebrate the fact that white people came on boats and then took most of their land away from them.
Yeah.
So I don't want to celebrate that either. But think about that when you're celebrating Thanksgiving. And then if you want to try some vegan stuff, I would very much recommend it. But, I guess maybe here's how you start with veganism. When you're eating a hamburger or you're eating your turkey, thank them for their sacrifice.
I have a huge problem about that, though. I used to say that to myself.
I know, but
it's
a start.
I know.
They didn't choose it.
I know.
But nobody ever chooses to be abused. Nobody ever chooses to be in a situation where they're ultimately murdered, right?
I know. It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
I know it's difficult.
I know.
But we have to live a more compassionate life.
Yeah.
If we're going to get anywhere.
You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Just start. Just do it.
Yeah. Or at least think about it.
No, just do it. Do it.
Oh, I don't want to get sued. That was not a Nike reference.
Just be more compassionate.
Yeah.
Please.
All right. Well, I'm glad. I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you too.
And I'm thankful for this podcast because it lets us spend time together.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.
Oh, babe. The Lou and Me podcast is a Matthias production. The song is No Carpets by the New Forevers. Produced and edited by Moose. Hosted by Lou and me.
Thanks for listening.